A gentleman, impeccably dressed and softly spoken, occupies seat 18C aboard a Boeing 727, designated as Flight 305, as the aircraft taxis down the runway. With calm composure, he discreetly passes a note to the attractive flight attendant. Assuming it to be yet another phone number from a lonely businessman, she casually tucks it into her purse. However, to her surprise, the man confidently alerts her, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Now, the question arises, did he truly possess a bomb? But more importantly, what fate befell this audacious air pirate, known as D.B. Cooper? How did he vanish without a trace, preserving his elusive persona forever? Or could he be among the suspects we will discuss today? To unravel this mystery, let us delve into the details of the crime. The incident occurred on the eve of Thanksgiving, November 24, 1971. Approaching the Northwest Orient Airlines counter at Portland International Airport, the man introduced himself as Dan Cooper. The alteration to D.B. Cooper arose due to a miscommunication, although it is highly unlikely that either Dan or Cooper accurately represented his true identity. Resembling a character from Reservoir Dogs, he exuded an air of sophistication, donning a black suit, a black tie, and a meticulously pressed white shirt. Observations from the airline staff suggested he was around his mid-40s and possessed an average physique. In the mid-afternoon, the plane departed Portland with only a third of the seats occupied, an ideal scenario for Mr. Cooper. Requesting a bourbon, he discreetly informed the flight attendant, Florence Schaffner, that his note contained more than just a phone number. Joining Schaffner was a newcomer named Tina Mucklow, who swiftly alerted the pilots about the tense situation unfolding at the rear. Mucklow described a man in a suit, sporting horn-rimmed sunglasses, asserting possession of a bomb. Simultaneously, she took a seat beside Cooper as he opened his briefcase, revealing what appeared to be 8 sticks of dynamite connected to wires and a battery. In his hand, he held a trigger. Politely yet firmly, he conveyed his demands: $200,000 in cash, 2 front parachutes, 2 back parachutes, and a fuel truck awaiting their arrival in Seattle. Mucklow became the intermediary between the hijacker and the rest of the crew, ensuring his sense of safety and preventing the bomb's detonation. In a later interview, she recalled, "I was there for the hijacker to kind of keep him feeling safe, reassured, comfortable, and not detonating that bomb." In moments of respite, she prayed, not only for herself but for everyone on board, including the hijacker. The flight, expected to last a mere 30 minutes to Seattle, instead circled in the skies for nearly 2 hours as government agents strategized and assembled the necessary resources. At this point, the other passengers remained oblivious to the unfolding drama, being informed only of mechanical issues aboard the aircraft. Throughout the ordeal, Cooper maintained an astonishing level of composure, calmly pointing out sights visible through the windows. Mucklow later reflected, "He seemed rather nice. He was never cruel or nasty. He was thoughtful and calm all the time. He even ordered another bourbon, insisting on paying for it, though such gestures were unnecessary." Eventually, Mucklow gathered the courage to inquire about his motives and whether he harbored any grudge against the airline. Cooper responded, "I don't have a grudge against your airline, miss. I just have a grudge." This grudge would later play a significant role in the unfolding narrative. Upon landing, Cooper received his requested sum in unmarked $20 bills, each one previously photographed. He also obtained the parachutes, although he declined the military ones, opting instead for civilian versions. Unaware of the true situation, the remaining passengers were released. With the plane grounded and all window shades closed to thwart potential snipers, Cooper allowed Schaffner and another flight attendant to leave, while Mucklow was informed that she would remain for the subsequent flight. As the plane underwent refueling, authorities requested a face-to-face conversation with Cooper, to which he emphatically replied, "No." He further added, "Let's get this show on the road." Despite attempts to stall the refueling process, the plane eventually took off. Cooper instructed the pilots to fly to Mexico City at the lowest possible speed of approximately 115 miles per hour, 185 kilometers per hour, maintaining an altitude below 10,000 feet, 3,000 meters. He also demanded that the wing flaps be lowered to 15 degrees and that the cabin remain unpressurized. Cooper had meticulously devised his plan for a safe jump, although, as subsequent events would reveal, safety was far from guaranteed. However, a setback soon emerged when the first officer informed Cooper that reaching Mexico City in one go was unfeasible, necessitating a refueling stop at Nevada's Reno Tahoe International Airport. Cooper, accompanied by Mucklow, remained in the cabin and patiently waited. Reflecting on those moments, Mucklow later shared, "I think the one feeling that was forefront in my mind was I just felt so alone." It was she who would directly interact with Cooper once again, just prior to the jump. Initially, Cooper had expressed a desire to fly with the exit door open and the stairs down, but ground staff deemed such a configuration perilous. As the time approached, he asked Mucklow to assist with the door and stairs. Eventually, however, he instructed her to return to the cockpit, as he intended to manage the task himself. Uttering a heartfelt plea, she implored him, "Will you please take the bomb with you?" Whether he failed to hear her or simply ignored the request, he continued to fiddle with the parachutes. Mucklow reluctantly left him, becoming the last person to lay eyes on the enigmatic hijacker. She fervently hoped for everyone's safety as she returned to the cockpit, where she was met with relief. The pilot later recalled, "All of a sudden the cockpit door opened, and in walked this lovely lady who had been our passive resistance to the hijacker." As soon as the door opened, Cooper was buffeted by the roaring wind. Amidst the cacophony, he struggled to deploy the stairs. Utilizing the intercom system, he conveyed his predicament to the pilots. Despite the deafening gusts, they assured him they would reduce the aircraft's speed. Their efforts proved fruitful, enabling Cooper to finally exit the plane. Once landed, the pilot and Mucklow sat together in an FBI vehicle in Reno. Tears streamed down Mucklow's face, an outpouring of emotion unlike anything she had experienced before. Offering solace, the pilot comforted her, assuring her, "It's okay, it's okay. It's over." And indeed, it was over. No lives were lost, and no injuries sustained. However, the plane was now missing a few things: Cooper, the money, and the bomb. The FBI disseminated composite sketches of the man dubbed Cooper, possessing fingerprints, remnants of unused parachutes, and even his clip-on tie and tie-pin. The moniker DB Cooper emerged during the early stages of the investigation, courtesy of a media miscommunication. Yet, despite their extensive efforts, law enforcement agencies found no definitive evidence, no conclusive leads that would unravel the enigma of DB Cooper's true identity or his ultimate fate. Over the ensuing years, countless theories and suspects surfaced. Some speculated that Cooper perished during the jump, succumbing to the treacherous conditions and unprepared landing. Others believed he managed to survive, vanishing into obscurity. Speculation ran rife, ranging from Cooper being a seasoned skydiver or a former military operative to him being an ordinary individual driven by desperation. The investigation spawned a myriad of suspects, each with their own intriguing narratives. However, no concrete proof or breakthrough emerged to definitively solve the case. Decades have passed since that fateful day in 1971. The tale of DB Cooper persists, captivating the imaginations of countless individuals who find themselves drawn to the mystery. Will the truth ever be unearthed? Only time will tell. Until then, the legend of DB Cooper, the audacious skyjacker who vanished into thin air, continues to captivate our collective consciousness, forever etching his name into the annals of history. In their assessment, it was concluded that if Cooper had managed to land safely, it would have been in a harsh and unforgiving terrain. The rugged landscape made it possible for a person to go missing for an extended period. Despite their exhaustive efforts, the search team scoured the area, visiting numerous houses, conducting aerial surveys with aircraft and helicopters, yet they found no trace of Cooper, no body, not even a fragment of clothing that could be linked to him. As the seasons changed, the authorities, including the Army, Air Force, National Guard, police, and civilians, launched a massive search in the presumed landing areas. They even utilized a submarine to explore a nearby lake. Unfortunately, their efforts proved fruitless, yielding only the discovery of a skeleton, which turned out to be unrelated to Cooper, a tragic case of a kidnapped and murdered girl. Among those who had any substantial contact with Cooper was Mucklow, but after her FBI interview, she wanted nothing more than to distance herself from the ordeal. However, civilian sleuths relentlessly pursued her, convinced that she held crucial information or might have been involved. Mucklow maintained her innocence, stating, "I carried on with my life, pursuing my own interests and aspirations. I refused to let the hijacking define me." Nevertheless, she endured persistent inquiries at her doorstep, year after year, with people seeking answers she simply did not possess. She had no involvement in the hijacking. Since the authorities found no physical evidence of Cooper's presence, they shifted their focus to tracking the bills. They meticulously scoured casinos and other potential venues where the money might have been laundered. A reward of $25,000 was offered to anyone who could return the cash. However, it wasn't until a child stumbled upon a portion of the money that the investigation made any headway. Until that point, none of the bills had been recovered. In 1978, new evidence emerged when a deer hunter stumbled upon a card with instructions on how to lower stairs on a Boeing 727. This finding raised speculation that the card belonged to Cooper and had landed in an area compatible with the plane's flight path. As you may recall, some of the money was eventually found. However, perplexing questions surrounded the cash. Why were some bills missing from one packet? How did the 3 packets remain intact despite being separated from the rest? Years later, scientists concluded that the money didn't enter the river immediately after the hijacking but rather arrived there months later. The perplexing question remained, how did the money become separated if Cooper had survived? The authorities even dredged the river, but not a single additional bill was discovered. While the official investigation had ceased, dedicated civilians continued to delve into the case. Eric Ellis, one such individual, spent a decade searching for the money but came up empty-handed. Nevertheless, he remains unwavering in his belief that Cooper survived. This unwavering belief is shared by many members of the public who reject the notion that D.B. Cooper met his demise. They argue that if Cooper had died, his body or personal belongings would have been found. Cooper displayed knowledge and competence throughout the hijacking, indicating that he had a plan. His calm demeanor during the flight suggested familiarity with flying and parachuting. It is reasonable to assume that a person capable of committing such a crime may have engaged in previous illegal activities. These are the certainties we have regarding the case. Based on eyewitness accounts, Cooper was likely around 5 feet 10 inches tall, with dark hair, tan skin, and brown eyes. He probably weighed around 180 pounds, 82 kilograms, and was in his 40s. Additionally, his conversations with Mucklow revealed his intimate knowledge of the Seattle area, recognizing landmarks from an aerial perspective. This led some to speculate that he could have been an experienced Air Force veteran, given his proficiency in parachuting. Furthermore, Cooper adopted the alias Dan Cooper, the name of a fictional comic book hero in the Royal Canadian Air Force known for audacious stunts. Although these comics were not available in the United States, it is plausible that Cooper encountered them during his Air Force deployment in Europe. While this comic book connection may be coincidental, it cannot be disregarded. The evidence suggests that Cooper possessed flying and parachuting expertise. His request for multiple parachutes was a calculated move, as it dissuaded authorities from providing him with faulty equipment. By selecting the Boeing 727, he targeted an aircraft well-suited for parachute jumps and quick refueling. Additionally, Cooper knew how to lower the stairs during the flight, a piece of knowledge inaccessible to the general public. To summarize, Mr. Cooper possessed an intimate understanding of the plane and possessed the necessary skills to execute his plan successfully. It is plausible that he had received military training and had extensive knowledge of aviation. Psychologists have also suggested that the high-risk nature of the crime indicates a likelihood of the perpetrator being burdened by significant debts. Considering all these factors, one might assume that Cooper would have been easily apprehended. Let us now examine the individuals who have been identified as potential Cooper candidates. Among the suspects, Dwayne L. Weber stood out due to his resemblance to the mysterious hijacker, his criminal record, and military background. Weber was known to be a heavy smoker, favoring bourbon as his drink of choice. It is worth noting that smoking was permitted on commercial aircraft during that era, and Cooper exhibited confidence while smoking during the flight. Mucklow had to light his cigarettes because one of his hands remained on the bomb trigger at all times. The FBI initially possessed a collection of Cooper's finished cigarettes, but unfortunately, those crucial pieces of evidence were lost, depriving investigators of the opportunity for DNA analysis, a breakthrough technology that could have potentially revealed Cooper's identity. On his deathbed, as his kidneys were failing, Weber turned to his wife and confessed to being the man who had parachuted from the plane with a bag of cash. Moments before his passing, he uttered the words, "I am Dan Cooper." Weber's wife, taken aback by this deathbed revelation, later discovered a trove of false identification documents among his belongings. She spent years investigating the possibility that her husband was Cooper, finding credence in his confession. She recalled Weber having nightmares about leaving fingerprints on the plane and remembered him returning home with a knee injury around the time of the hijacking. Furthermore, she found a library book on Cooper with Weber's handwriting and recalled him taking her to the location where the money was discovered. She believed that he hid the money, but due to damage, he discarded the 3 bundles into the river, which ultimately ended up on the sandbank. Notably, she also found an old Northwest airline ticket. Despite these compelling circumstantial pieces of evidence, the FBI's investigation did not conclusively link Weber to Cooper. The agency possessed DNA evidence from a tie-in, but admitted the difficulty of drawing definitive conclusions from the samples. Furthermore, the FBI could not confirm with absolute certainty that the fingerprints they had belonged to the hijacker. Another individual who attracted attention was L.D. Cooper, a Korean War veteran with a questionable past. His niece, featured in a documentary about Cooper, emphatically asserted that her uncle was the hijacker. She recounted a Thanksgiving encounter in the woods where she saw her uncle covered in blood. Her other uncle, Dewey Cooper, exclaimed, "Well, we did it. We hijacked the airplane." L.D. Cooper subsequently disappeared, and years later, a placard belonging to a 727 was found in the area. Despite these intriguing details, L.D. Cooper's involvement remains speculative and unverified. As the years go by, the case of D.B. Cooper remains one of the most perplexing unsolved mysteries in American history. Theories abound, ranging from Cooper's demise during the jump to his successful escape and living a quiet life under a new identity. Speculation will continue, and with advancements in technology and forensic techniques, there remains a glimmer of hope that one day the true identity of D.B. Cooper will be revealed, and the mystery that has captivated the nation for decades will finally be solved. There is evidence suggesting that L.D. Cooper did not simply vanish but actually maintained contact with his family until his death in 1999. Investigations revealed that he had moved away, gotten married, and spent his final years living at a ministry run by an individual assisting ex-convicts. Although L.D. Cooper led a mysterious life, as recounted by his niece, it is still doubtful that he was D.B. Cooper. Another intriguing figure in this case is Barbara Dayton, previously known as Robert Dayton. In 1969, she underwent gender reassignment surgery and allegedly disguised herself as a man during the 1971 plane hijacking. Dayton had a history of cross-dressing, having shown a preference for girls' clothes in her youth. With experience as a merchant marine, a background in handling dynamite during childhood, and a penchant for adrenaline-inducing parachute jumps, she possessed the necessary skills for a hijacking. Dayton obtained a pilot's license in 1959 but failed to secure a commercial pilot's license due to struggles with the mathematics component of the exam. Recalling the actual hijacking, Cooper expressed grievances not against the airline but against something else. Notably, Dayton had been rejected by Johns Hopkins University for gender reassignment surgery, although she eventually underwent the procedure at Seattle's University Hospital. There are two potential grudges associated with her: financial difficulties, as evident from her depression and subsequent improved mood after the hijacking, and discontent stemming from the rejection of her gender reassignment surgery request. Dayton resided in the vicinity of the hijacking, and her friends frequently discussed the event. Interestingly, her friends revealed that she became defensive when anyone criticized the hijacker, eventually confessing one day that she was D.B. Cooper. According to her account, she orchestrated the heist while dressed in a suit and darkened her hair with nail polish. Dayton constructed a bomb and successfully executed the plan. To facilitate her escape, she discarded the cash and changed back into women's clothing, as the authorities were not searching for a woman. In later years, Dayton became less forthcoming about her actions, possibly due to law enforcement's extension of the statute of limitations. Eventually, the friends she confided in contacted the FBI, but the agency did not view this theory with much weight. Dayton, an avid smoker, passed away at the age of 76 from lung disease. Another suspect is John List, who murdered his wife, mother, and 3 children prior to the hijacking. Financial struggles plagued the family, but List claimed that the primary motive behind the slayings was their deviation from their religious beliefs. Following the murders, List evaded capture for 18 years, remarried, and changed his name. Consequently, he became one of the main suspects for an extended period. However, when eventually apprehended, List admitted to the murders but denied involvement in the Cooper case. He died in prison at the age of 82 without any deathbed confessions. One particularly compelling suspect resembling D.B. Cooper is Richard McCoy Jr. His impressive resume would undoubtedly appeal to anyone seeking to hire a skyjacker for their business. McCoy served 2 tours in Vietnam, one as a Green Beret helicopter pilot, and later worked for the Utah National Guard. He received several accolades for his heroism, including the Army's Commendation Medal, Purple Heart, and Distinguished Flying Cross. Skydiving was listed as one of his hobbies. What makes McCoy even more intriguing is that he had conversations with a Special Forces colleague about such hijackings. Remarkably, on April 7, 1972, McCoy carried out a plane hijacking, demanding $500,000 in ransom and 4 parachutes. He successfully obtained the money and chutes at San Francisco International Airport before flying to Utah. During the flight, he made his jump, leaving his fingerprints behind. McCoy's friend, who subsequently reported him to the police, believed that his actions mirrored those of Richard McCoy. Law enforcement officers arrived at McCoy's residence, discovered the cash in the attic, except for $20 he had spent on food, and matched his fingerprints to those found on a magazine aboard the plane. McCoy was sentenced to 45 years in prison, but he managed to escape a couple of years later using a fake gun made from dental paste. After a confrontation with FBI agents, McCoy was fatally shot by one of the agents. The agent later claimed, "When I shot Richard McCoy, I shot D.B. Cooper at the same time." However, authorities concluded that McCoy possessed greater expertise than Cooper, thereby eliminating him as a suspect. McCoy displayed superior knowledge regarding the timing of his jump and the necessary conditions for a successful parachute landing, which included wearing a helmet and jumpsuit. Undeniably desperate, McCoy had aspired to work for the FBI or CIA but was unsuccessful. His meager earnings failed to sustain his family, and his wife threatened to leave him. The official report declared that McCoy was not D.B. Cooper. Nevertheless, several individuals, including a former FBI agent, maintained that McCoy was Cooper, albeit lacking sufficient evidence to prove it. According to their perspective, McCoy's skyjacking was not a copycat crime but a repeat performance by someone who had learned from their initial attempt. McCoy's family asserted that the Brigham Young University tie clip found during the Cooper hijacking belonged to McCoy, who had previously attended the university. Additionally, McCoy's former probation officer claimed to have seen receipts from a Las Vegas gas station that belonged to McCoy. These receipts were dated for Thanksgiving Day, the day after the hijacking, and Las Vegas was approximately a day's drive from the Cooper landing zone. It is worth noting that the bag provided to the hijacker lacked a zipper, making it challenging to retain the cash during the skydive. However, no bills associated with the hijacking surfaced. When questioned about his whereabouts on the night of the hijacking, McCoy initially lied, stating that he was at home with his family in Utah. The authorities emphasized that experienced skydivers would not have attempted a jump into the frigid night sky, given the approximately 50% chance of fatality. McCoy, however, was desperate, on the brink of losing his family, his home, and everything he held dear. Furthermore, he harbored a deep grudge, having repeatedly risked his life for his country without receiving adequate support upon his return. McCoy neither confirmed nor denied being Cooper. His wife remained tight-lipped throughout the investigation and even filed a lawsuit against the probation officer who wrote a book implying her involvement in the crimes. If any of the major suspects were indeed D.B. Cooper, the most plausible candidate would likely be Richard McCoy. He possessed the necessary skills, as demonstrated during his second hijacking, had been in the right places at the right times, and had lied about his whereabouts. Moreover, he harbored significant grievances and desperately needed money. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case, stating that it would reopen if new evidence emerged. While some agents speculate that Cooper perished that night, given the vast and treacherous terrain of his potential landing zone, including mountains, lakes, and rivers, his body and the accompanying evidence were never discovered. Perhaps someday, these items will be found. This conclusion alleviates the pressure on the FBI, an organization averse to embarrassment, which even lost crucial cigarette butts during the investigation, incurring expenses exceeding $200,000 over the years.